Hello, my name is Stephanie and welcome back to another Hi! It's another video. We are at Glen Park in Buffalo, New York because I'm back home, which is both fantastic and terrible at the same time. That I'm in this weird juxtaposition where if it's cold, I hate life, and if it's warm, I'm thriving. Today we're not talking about Buffalo, we're talking about Seoul. So for the past 4 months, I've been living in the capital of cute cafes, the capital of K-pop, the capital of South Korea, Seoul. But what is Seoul not the capital of? Veganism. Everyone told me that it was extremely difficult to eat vegan in Seoul, and the answer to that question, is it hard to be vegan in South Korea, is a yes and no answer. And today I'm going to be giving you basically a guide of how you can be vegan successfully in Seoul, South Korea. Ow! My knees! I'm sitting on, what is this? Wood chunks, what are these called? Wood chips, and it hurts my knees. Historically, South Korea was actually a really vegan-friendly place, with many of the traditional dishes actually being vegan because of the influence of Buddhism on Korea. However, like always, someone has to ruin it. Basically what happened is vegetables were for the commoners and meat was a luxury good, which meant that when meat became affordable for the wide mass, people got on board because now they could finally indulge in this luxury, which means, for me, I'm left alone. So nowadays, every dish basically has something meat in it, even like a sauce could have fish oil in it. So the question is, how do you be vegan in South Korea when veganism is hardly a concept? Since I spent 4 months in Korea being the best vegan as I possibly could in my environment, I will explain to you in this video how I did veganism. So to explain to you, this video is divided into 3 parts. Part 1, which is grocery shopping, part 2, which is eating out, and part 3, which is other resources that can help you kind of extrapolate beyond what I've provided as a resource. For you to learn, for you to gather, for you to experience Seoul to the fullest, where there's not meat. So first, number 1 is grocery shopping. In Korea, a lot of shopping is done in small markets and little grocery shops, like big stores, like common grocery stores that you'd find in the US, like a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods. It's not really a big concept, like there are some big chains like E-Mart or Lemon Mart or Latte Mart, but they're not as common and you'll much more easily find them at a street side market or a small shop. The markets will generally have a lot more fresh produce, and if you go to a market, you can even probably do it zero waste. I honestly avoided markets because I didn't really know what I was buying there, because a lot of it's like kimchi and fermented things, and I am confused by that and a little sus. But your best bet at a full kind of Americanized shopping experience is probably going to either the big E-Mart or the local grocery stores. So the local grocery stores will basically have all your fresh produce, but there's not as much produce as America, which I didn't even realize America had so much fresh produce until I left the US. These small grocery stores will also have a small international section and some basic things like pepper, salt, seasoning. Those are going to be your more traditional things that you're looking for, like rice, seaweed. You can find all that at the smaller grocery stores. And where I lived, had a grocery store, literally like 5 of them within 3 to 15 minutes walks. And there's probably more that I didn't even know about. These grocery stores are in high quantity, so it's not a matter of is there a grocery store, but it's a matter of which one will you go to. And yes, I did price compare excessively. And you can find tofu in convenience stores, like, you know, like if you went to a gas station here, like those type of stores, like a 7-Eleven type vibe. First of all, there's 7-Eleven in South Korea, but you can find tofu in literally every single one of these stores. So if you're in a jiffy, you need something, tofu will be there for you, and at a super affordable price. So your silly girl was talking to no one because the microphone wasn't on. So here's some good news for grocery shopping in Korea. In just 4 months of living in Korea, I saw veganism actually grow quite significantly. Not only did I see more products hit the shelves, like a new oat milk, it's called Amazing Oat, and let me tell you, it's actually amazing. And then also promoting the vegan options within the grocery store, like vegan dumplings. I've never had someone show me all the vegan products in their grocery store before, especially in the US. That would be unheard of. People be like, why are you showing me vegan options and trying to eat vegan? What are you doing? In Korea, they did it, and that was really, really cool to see. Also, chocolate Oatly and regular Oatly dropped in price while I was there by over 2,000 won, which is like $1.50-ish, which is insane. It used to be like 7,000 won, which is expensive, and then it went down to 4,800 won, which was fantastic. Recording in public is a scary thing. So lo and behold, there is progress, and that is so exciting to see. Next up, we're talking about eating out. Yum! Eating out is challenging to say the least, especially if you don't know Korean. So like I said before, veganism isn't really a concept. Vegan food is a concept, but the word veganism and associating that together doesn't really make sense for a lot of people, and some people will be like, whoa, 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 no meat? What are you talking about? And they just won't get to you no matter how long you try to communicate, especially the aging population, but it's growing and growing in certain areas, so you can find stuff, which is really good. So when you're out, here are some dishes that might be on a regular menu that is generally vegan, but of course you should double check with the restaurant in your best possible way of trying to communicate, like no meat, no gogi. And then following that will be my favorite vegan restaurants within the city, because there actually are so many good vegan places. There's a lot of good really only vegan places, but then the rest of the restaurants in the world are just not really vegan, but you can try your best. So number one is bibimbap. Bibimbap is a bowl of various veggies and rice and a little bit of sauce, and you just mix it all together. Sometimes it has like this little fish cakes on top, which are clearly not vegan. So if that's on it, you can either just take it off or ask without it, and make sure to ask with no egg as well, because bibimbap is traditionally with egg. Kimbap or kimbap is like basically what you would say is sushi in the US, but in Korea, instead of like a fish and some vegetables, it's usually a pickled vegetable, so it's a little bit sweeter side with the same rice rolled in seaweed, so you can get that. I think in the GS25s there's actually vegan kimbap now with like a vegan plant-based meat, but I've never actually found it on my own. I just know through word of mouth. It does taste sweeter than sushi, so I don't think I like it as much compared to sushi, but it's a good grab and go if you can find yourself a vegetable kimbap. But again, it might have egg in it, so make sure to avoid that. A lot of things that are veggie will have egg, so make sure to check that out. Also, did I mention that where I'm filming, like literally 5 minutes away from my house, there's literally just a waterfall? Like, can you believe that a waterfall is in my neighborhood? I think that's the coolest part of living here. It's just the fact that I live next to one of the biggest, most grandest waterfalls in the world, Niagara Falls, and this small waterfall that's literally just here, naturally, and I get to walk to my own personal waterfall, basically. That's pretty cool. And third, is dumplings. So a lot of dumplings will actually have meat in it, unfortunately, but there are some dumplings that will just have kimchi. If you go to Gwangjang Market, there is kimchi vegan dumplings, and some street vendors as well will have it, but some of them will also be filled with like glass noodles, which are also vegan. But the kimchi dumplings were honestly kind of gross, not the best, taste very strongly of bad kimchi, not the greatest. So if you are looking for really good kimchi dumplings, or dumplings like, go to the Mega E-Mart and grocery store, and they have them, and they're cheaper and more delicious and absolutely fantastically delicious. Just loving the tree right now. It's a really pretty tree. It's really pretty. I don't think you get to get the full capturation. Number 4 is the mung bean pancake, which is made out of crushed beans and oil. It's very, very fried, so very, very unhealthy, so just beware of that. It's quite tasty with the soy sauce and onions that it comes with. You can also get this in Gwangjang Market, but again, beware of Gwangjang Market because it's very not vegan friendly, and if you want to see animals in captivity, and you want to see like pig snouts and eels trapped and octopuses not having the time of their life, this might not be the place for you. Certainly wasn't the place for me. And last but not least is my favorite Korean dish of all time, which is japchae, which is basically glass noodles. So the noodles are made out of sweet potatoes, and they become clear somehow, and it's basically those noodles in soy sauce, red peppers, mushrooms, pepper, salt, a little bit of that jazz. It's delicious, a little greasy again, but super, super yummy. Sometimes it does come with, like, again, the fish cakes, so just make sure to ask without it, or beef. I think sometimes ask without it. This should be fine. It's typically fully vegan, and it's typically literally the best dish ever, so you should eat it. And I'm sure I'm missing some vegan classics, like vegan Korean dishes, like tteokbokki is sometimes vegan, but I've always seen it with milk, so I'm not really sure about that one. And the reason I'm not saying more of them is because 1, I haven't tried it, or 2, I can't verify if it's vegan, and I don't want to give you misinformation. Like, I've seen other vegan vlogs, but when I ask the street vendors if it's vegan, they're like, no, there's milk or eggs. So I don't know what these other YouTubers are saying, but you can't guarantee it's vegan, guys. You cannot. Contrary to what I said earlier about Seoul being difficult for veganism, there's actually a really nice amount of really good vegan restaurants, which I'll be going into now. I'm briefly gonna go over some of my favorites and one not so favorite, but I'm including it here because it's traditional Korean food and just to show you the options that are out there. So just before I get into them, one main problem with these vegan restaurants is they're often in pocketed areas. So for my apartment, for example, there was no vegan restaurants within a 30-minute walking distance, which absolutely sucks. Whereas where my friends all live, there was literally a vegan place 5 minutes up the road, one 7 minutes down the road, and so many more, like 30,000 many more, just a 15-minute walk. So it really just depends on where you are. So one of the big areas would be Itaewon in the HBC area. Itaewon is the international community in Seoul, the international pocket, so obviously it's gonna have more vegan options just because there's more of an international influence, whereas the rest of Seoul is a little more sporadic. One restaurant is Casablanca, which is not a fully vegan restaurant, but my favorite restaurant probably on this entire list because of their vegan dish, which is absolutely delicious and the best thing I've ever put in my mouth ever. So it goes on this list. So Casablanca is a Moroccan restaurant which has Moroccan dishes like shashuka and a lentil sandwich type thing with something in it. I don't know. It's absolutely delicious. It's creamy, it has vegan cheese, it has carrots, it has something good made out of chickpeas. I don't even know exactly what's in it, but it's delicious. And if you go right across the street, the owners of Casablanca own another Moroccan restaurant, which also has vegan options on the menu. I've never actually been there, but I heard it's good, so take my word for it. It's also affordable. Come on, we love an affordable thing. Number 2 is Vegetus, which in my college is a vegan classic. I think a lot of people have gone there, vegan or not. Everyone loves it. Vegetus is a fully vegan restaurant in the HBC and Itaewon area and serves basically more American style dishes like burgers, mac and cheese, lasagna with tofu as like the noodles. I don't know how that works, but it works. They also have an assortment of vegan desserts, including homemade, in-house made vegan ice cream, which was super delicious, but they don't always have it, so make sure to ask. And it's a little bit more of an expensive place, but if you're craving vegan mac and cheese, this will serve your craving, and I think it's worth it. Hello, and welcome to It's Boiling in This Car Diaries. The next restaurant is Hangwa-chae. Hangwa-chae is a traditional Korean restaurant, and it will serve more of your Buddhist type cuisine. It's completely vegan because it's traditional Korean food, which is completely vegan, which is pretty cool. It's a lot of side dishes. If you've like gone to a lot of different Korean restaurants, this is basically those appetizers that they give you, which is a bunch of them. It's a full-on buffet, so you can really get what you want, which is really nice, but if you accidentally get what you don't want, then you may lose your appetite. I do recommend this as a place to go to experience Korean cuisine in general, just maybe not a place to go all the time, at least for me. And if you go there, make sure to get the zucchini pancake because it's honestly delicious and I love zucchini pancakes from Korea. The next is the Plant Cafe and Kitchen, which is in Itaewon. Plant Cafe is a vegan staple in the Itaewon area for vegans and non-vegans alike. Everyone I've ever talked to is in love with this place and thinks the food is great. I think the food is great. I think you might think the food is great. You should go. The prices are a little bit more expensive than other vegan places. I think this is probably the highest and most expensive restaurant I went to, but the menu is very international and it has a lot of dishes from all across the world. And let me tell you, some of the most delicious vegan cakes you will ever put in your mouth, and I will make that sweeping statement because I think it might be true. And this place has chai tea lattes, which is definitely a San Francisco, California type thing, but apparently it's not a Seoul, South Korea thing. I was so great to get that little taste of what once was in my life. So I really love this place. It's all vegan, super vegan friendly, and sometimes you get free samples of things, which is pretty good. And the vibe of this restaurant is top tier perfection. They have these beautiful couches and plants hanging from the ceiling. I literally spent over 6 hours there one day studying. I had my chai tea latte and then dinner in the evening. It was a wonderful day. So the next restaurant is probably my favorite restaurant in all of South Korea and is one of my favorite restaurants altogether. It's called Camouflage and is in the Itaewon area again. This place is like American Chinese food and will serve like your orange chicken and your kung pao chicken, fried rice, lo mein. And I would say that they bring this to the next level because rather than having like your really greasy orange chicken that kind of vaguely tastes like orange chicken but you really know it's actually just pineapple in the sauce, it definitely has that citrusy orange flavor in this chicken. I don't know how they do it, but it's really good. And they even have like dried orange peels on it. It's really fancy, really good, and wonderful service, and I love them so much. They're so nice to me and they don't get enough business, so please go there because they deserve to exist in this place. It's 100% underrated. The next is Family and Friends Cafe in Seoul / Dongdaemun. I actually don't know exactly where this one is, but it was like 30 minutes from where I lived, 25-minute walk. So Seoul is famous for having these really cool cafes with lots of really good desserts. And luckily for that, that includes vegan cafes as well. So this vegan cafe is like 2 to 3 stores, I think, in this little neighborhood area, and serves amazing cakes. They have really, really good cakes. They also have scones and other vegan goodies clearly labeled as they're 100% vegan, and of course gluten-free things as well. The slice of cake I had was probably one of the best I've ever had in my mouth. I don't really know how to describe it because I don't know. It was kind of more like a pie in a way, but it had like red bean paste, which surprisingly is sweet. I wouldn't know that otherwise. And this really thick layer of frosting, but it's not frosting, it's like this cream thing. I don't know, kind of like a cheesecake, I'm assuming, maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was delicious. Look at it. I mean, look at it. It's fantastic. It looks delicious. It's colorful. It's affordable. I love it. And the staff speak English, which is really helpful and will help you literally with anything, any question that you have. Next is Overte Donuts, which is 100% vegan donut place in Seoul. Can you believe it? A fully vegan donut shop in Seoul. I just wouldn't even expect that because San Francisco doesn't even have that. Their donuts were so good and had a lot of really unique flavors like matcha or black sesame. They were really, really good and they weren't overly expensive. The next is called By Tofu, which is again another 100% vegan place, and this is in the HBC area. It's a smaller place and mostly open for only lunches, so make sure you look at the hours because there's been many times where I'm like, oh, I'll go here, but unfortunately they're closed just because they usually close earlier. But By Tofu is more of an American cuisine focused on health foods, so they have a lot of tofu bowls with really lots of greens like broccoli, brown rice, which isn't a green, but it's delicious. They have sandwiches with tempeh. It is, I think, like 12,000-ish won, which I would say is on the cheaper side for a full vegan place. So definitely check that out. And the last one that I'm adding is called Hanulhom in the HBC area. This is not a 100% vegan place, but it is probably one of the most authentic places on this list. The owners here really brought me into Korean culture and taught me a lot about the city, the country, and literally anything I had to ask. Their service is really nice and it really makes you feel like home after you go there. They serve more traditional Korean dishes like japchae and bibimbap, and at a really affordable price too. I think only 7,000 won for a ginormous bowl of japchae. They're super welcoming to foreigners, more than anyone else I've met.
This is more.
They serve everything like normal alcohol.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
It actually tastes good.
Oh my god.
No, right.
But the thing is, 6%
This is like kombucha or something.
Yeah.
And just honestly a really great experience. And the two owners are super helpful at identifying what is vegan on the menu. You just say vegan and they're like, yeah, vegan. You say no egg, no egg. They got it. They got you. And you won't find Hanulhom on many blogs, unfortunately. It's a very like family-oriented shop. So I will leave like the neighbor link in the Google Maps location in the description below so you can really find these places easily. And I really urge you to go here because it'll really bring you into that South Korea experience that you probably are looking for as a foreign traveler going to South Korea. And just to say, I didn't mention every restaurant that I visited here. I really only chose my favorites and things that I think are worthy of noting and talking about in terms of South Korean culture and cuisine. And now into the third and final section. Resources. So the first resource is called Happy Cow, which is an app you can get on your phone. It's basically like the vegan Yelp combined with Google Maps smushed together. And here you have Happy Cow. I've talked about Happy Cow in my previous videos, my vegan in insert city name here videos like vegan in Buffalo and vegan in San Francisco. So if you want to see what's vegan in those places, definitely check those videos out. But if you haven't seen those videos yet, if you aren't familiar with Happy Cow is an app where you can find, review, and add vegan restaurants to a map to assist the vegan community in finding more vegan places and assist yourself in finding vegan places around where you are. This app has been essential for me traveling as a vegan and finding vegan places around me, especially when you don't know the language, because other people will find these places for you and add them, and not all of them are English names or are apparently like obviously vegan. So having this resource has been really essential to helping me find good places to eat. So the next resource is Naver and Naver Maps. Google Maps is quite frankly underdeveloped in the region, so instead of using Google Maps, many Koreans use something called Naver and Naver Maps. Unfortunately, most of it is in Korean, but a lot of it can be put into English or translated into English right within the page. And what this resource is really good at is just traveling around Korea. They're really good at showing the bus times, train times for public transportation, taxi times. You can do most things within Naver Maps and of course the accompanying Naver app, where I can put the Naver links to restaurants and you can find them right there. And also, side note, if you don't have a SIM card in the country, which I did not for 4 months, which is a decision, I will say, you can still use the maps when you're offline. Just make sure you load it when you're online, and then the bus times and your walking GPS will still update as you're going, which is super cool and super helpful. The next app is Papago, which is basically just the Korean Google Translate. It's better than Google Translate, especially for English to Korean. It's also built into Naver pages from the app before, so if you're on Naver, you can scroll and basically click something, the little Papago icon, and it will translate it into English for you. This app is absolutely a lifesaver when you're trying to talk to people, so definitely have that ready, because if you have a SIM card, you can do like audio to audio, and if you don't, you can still type in the Korean or type in the English or take a photo even and translate that. It's just super helpful for translating, and you need it. You need this app. The next is Google Maps, which, like I said before, is very underdeveloped for the country, but can be useful if you're trying to make a simple search in English for restaurants around. It's not as up-to-date as Naver, but it can be helpful. It won't show you a walking route, but if you follow the bus route, you can kind of know where you're going. So if you're in English searching for something, this could be the way to do it. The next is Kakao Taxi, which is basically how you can get around without the public transportation system. So Uber, again, is kind of more underdeveloped. So most things will be through taxi. They have a really extensive taxi system. Taxis everywhere. They're super helpful. Use Kakao Taxi to order your taxi, or if you don't really feel like getting another app, Uber actually will order a Kakao Taxi through their app instead of like an Uber car instead. Well, I sure hope I gave you a full in-depth guide to how to be vegan in Korea. I was told time and time again that being vegan in Korea was either impossible or a super hard challenge, and yes, there are challenging aspects of it. It's not maybe as easy as what you're comfortable with, but it's 100% possible, and I really don't think it is as hard as people describe. And especially because more vegan options are being available in the country literally every day, it's gonna be there. We're getting there, Korea. But do be aware that with anything that comes with traveling, there will be some accidents. So if you accidentally slip up eating something with egg in it or milk, like the bread, don't stress out too much. It can be really overwhelming sometimes to accidentally eat something that you didn't know you were eating, but just let it go and try better next time. Because now with that input of this place doesn't sell anything vegan, or this is actually not vegan that I thought it was, then you have that knowledge to not make the same mistake next time, so don't worry about it. You're learning. And if you have any questions or are looking for more advice, or frankly being vegan anywhere in general, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below. I will be sure to answer, or contact me via the contact section of my webpage, stephaniefroebel.com, which is linked in the description below. I also have videos, like I said earlier, on being vegan in Buffalo and being vegan in San Francisco, so if that interests you, definitely go check those out. Again, links in the description. Above all, thank you all so much for watching this video today, and I hope you all have an amazing, splendid, fantastic, beyond amazing time on this earth today. Until then, see you next time.